going on? What's going on? Good evening. Welcome to a special Warriors Quest 2.0. I am half your host, Steve Belcher. Shout out to my other co-host, Jared Brown, who could not be here this evening. Let me tell you guys, share this broadcast. If you're watching right now, I'm serious. If you're watching, you need to share this broadcast because you're not going to get any other type of interview or show like you're going to have tonight. Tonight, I have a special guest. Even though she had a double lung transplant, her story resonates with people with issues across the board. Before I introduce my guest and read part of her story, let me just show you a portion of her performance on The Doctors.
Don't let your life pass you by. Don't wait for someday to start. Live your own life. I'm in, I'm out, so many doubts in my way. Too busy now, thinking I'll be happy someday. Water inside my hands, these seconds they all slip away. Why tell you I love you tomorrow if I love you today? Don't let your life pass you by. Don't wait for someday to start. Live your life.
All right, that song right there gives me goosebumps. Let me give you a short introduction. Let me tell you, this story is a story of hope, inspiration, and love. However, it's also a story of trepidation, terrifying, and worry. Tonight, again, we have award-winning artist, singer-songwriter, and double transplant recipient, Temtchine. So let me give her the super VIP welcome. Let me get it here. Hold on. Here we go. Hey, Chloe, how you doing?
What an intro, Steve. My goodness. Thank you. Thank you.
You deserve it and much more.
I have to say one funny thing. The subtitles on that song have to have a video all on their own. That was hysterical. Don't wait for Sunday. Like,
oh, okay. I didn't even recognize it, but I'm sure you would recognize something like that because it's your music.
I laugh. Don't wait. We should do a whole video on that. The remix version.
Wow. Let me ask you, when you saw that video, what was going through your mind?
It's crazy. It goes right back. It's so crazy. When I just saw the one you played, I think about oxygen. I think about a whole life that is not currently this life. And it feels like, I keep saying this, it feels like I am literally in somebody else's body, living a completely different life. And it's so drastically different than the life I was living in that video. So it brings me right back there very quickly.
Wow, you look very, very different from that video.
Uh-oh.
How long was that? I mean, a good way. How long ago was that you performed on The Doctors?
It's also I look different every day now because I'm on massive doses of prednisone. Well, I shouldn't say massive doses, but prednisone, which actually changes your face. So when they up your dose, your cheeks grow. And then when they diminish your dose, you sort of, your face morphs. But that was, Goodness, I was telling you I have no sense of time. So I was on oxygen for 7 years. The doctors was probably, I can look that up, but probably quite recent, actually, probably about a year ago. I might be making that up, but something like that. Not that long ago. Not that long ago. But different, probably. I was much, skinnier back then because, again, your heart is working so hard with pulmonary hypertension. The diet that I was following was so reduced and so limited, and it was keeping me alive, but it was very hard to get in the nutrients that I needed,
Wow.
So you brought me right back. Thanks a lot.
No
Thanks
problem.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, your story actually started, you had mentioned you were singing, everything was going well with your career, and you was in the studio and you felt the sharp pain in your shoulder and it moved through your chest?
Yeah, I can see you did your research. Yes, that's exactly what happened. I actually ate a hamburger.
Uh-oh, hold on. She'll be right
It
back.
was exactly what you said. Okay. Oh, are we there? Are we there? Do we
Yeah, I'm
lose it?
here.
Did we
We're
lose it?
here. We're
Okay.
here.
So like you said, pain in the shoulder, didn't know what was going on. That turned into, and the reason I say hamburger, that I ate a hamburger, is because I always thought I ate something and that hamburger just triggered everything, but it didn't. But I was convinced for years. But basically ended up going from doctor to doctor, was literally diagnosed with everything, and then told like 24 hours later, you can leave the hospital, you don't have this, da da da. So I would leave happy that I didn't have whatever that was, but completely confused. I was continuing to get worse, had no idea what was going on. And then boom, it's now 7 years ago. That was 5 years of being misdiagnosed, leading me to 7 years ago when I was diagnosed. My pulmonary pressures, just for context, normal pressures are under 25 and severe is kind of like 50 and 60. And my pressures were at 180, which was crazy. And they didn't understand why I was alive. They're like, you're like a walking corpse at this point. They didn't know what to do with me, put me in a procedure. My lungs filled up with fluid. And the problem is that the medication that's supposed to treat pulmonary hypertension is the exact medication that you cannot give to somebody with pulmonary veno-occlusive disease. And it turns out that I had that. They weren't sure of it 7 years ago, but they diagnosed it when they looked at my lungs recently. So that was a problem because I couldn't necessarily be treated as somebody with PH. So it just became kind of, I was treated with very, very small doses of medication. They did want to give me something, but not a lot. But everybody was sort of at a loss because they didn't know what to do with me. Life expectancy for people with pulmonary hypertension is 2.8 years if left untreated. I was already surviving. I had already lived, 5 years before the diagnosis. So I was really at the end. This was all happening in New York at the time. And I had an amazing doctor there, Dr. Horn, who actually, she said, I think this is PVOD, pulmonary veno-occlusive disease, along with PH. And she knew, and she was right. And it just became, I could go on forever with this story, so I'll stop and let you keep going. But that was kind of the first time, essentially, that I say I was faced with real death. I was given a very short time left to live. And for that time, I was told I would have to be on oxygen for whatever that time was to be.
Being told that at such a young age, what went through your mind?
I think that it quickly switched into like my will to live. I think I didn't give much time to the fact that I was going to die. I don't think I actually heard that. And it's funny because I was told quite a few times, this is going to get worse. You're going to die. And I think it just kind of went, I didn't let it in a way. So I think my focus just went right to, that's interesting. Okay, so how do we solve this problem? I kind of looked at it almost as if it were happening to somebody else. And how would I go about solving this puzzle to keep myself alive? And I think because I didn't really let it in, it's funny. It's like with the oxygen, everything kind of trumps the other thing. So they came into my room at one point in the hospital and they're like, oh, you're going to have to be on oxygen for the rest of your life. And I was like, oxygen? What are you talking about? Like, I'm very vain, and I'm like, I can't wear oxygen. I'm a performer. I can't sing with oxygen. And then, the next 15 minutes later, another doctor comes in and she says, actually, you're most likely not going to live. So it went from, and I was like, oh, so suddenly oxygen became nothing. You know, I'm like, okay, just give me the oxygen. I'm fine. My vanity is out the window. So it's one thing kind of trumps the other. So that kept happening. And then I kept just silencing all of these voices and saying, I've just got to find a way to live. I have to find a way to live. So truthfully, a lot of prayer, a lot of belief in the fact that there's always a way. I think as long as you're breathing, there's a way. And I learned this again very recently, of course, with the transplant, which was a whole other story. But, you know, I think that's sort of the very long answer. I shifted into the mindset of the will to live and how would I make that happen?
In fact, you shifted in the will to live that I haven't seen anything like this picture I'm about to show with you doing planks with oxygen.
That's my
now,
Steve Martin.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I show this, Chloe, because what you were dealing with, you decided not to let that stop you from getting better. You didn't decide like, oh, I'm just going to stay in bed, or I'm just going to, like, if they say my life is over, then it's over, and like give up. You right here doing planks with your oxygen canister. At what point did you decide to say, hey, I know you told the story, but at what point did you decide to say, I'm going to start using the oxygen and not be vain anymore, especially performing? Here go you right here performing, and another picture with your oxygen tank. At what point was that no longer vain to you outside of
you're frozen, so hopefully you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So the oxygen story is going to be a little bit weird for you, but for anyone probably, because I always make jokes that I thank the rat community of all the communities, the rat community. So I was sitting on my couch one day fighting the idea of wearing oxygen, and it was sitting right next to me, you know, and then all of a sudden, I'm thinking, all right, my body is literally starving of oxygen. And my partner at the time puts on a video and he's like, okay, just watch this documentary. So it turns out to be a documentary on rats and how starving them of oxygen. It was something for like 2 weeks. They developed pulmonary hypertension. And so I all of a sudden saw this, and then I think they gave them the oxygen and they actually healed from the pulmonary hypertension, which was crazy. I don't know if that last part is right, but I know that they developed it after a few weeks. And that hit me so hard that the deprivation of oxygen could actually cause that disease in itself. So my vanity quickly shot out the window, and I realized here I am sitting down, my heart is beating out of my chest, and my oxygen canister is right there. And because of my vanity, not wearing this thing. And I just decided that I was going to wear it, turn him into my friend, named him Steve Martin because he looked so depressed. He looked like this just terribly depressing thing. So I'm like, no, we are going to dress you up. You're going to be wearing a tie at all your performances. You're coming with me everywhere I go. I'm changing the vibe. There is no negativity here, you know? So I had to completely sort of change the whole association to oxygen and get over it, basically, for the sake of my health, which was a big one, you know, when you are vain. And I've always said that I am, and, you know, it matters. It matters. So,
Sure.
You know, but you also—
How was that accepted in the industry, in the music industry? How was that accepted?
Interesting question. I don't know if I noticed. I mean, what it does is it's the elephant in the room for everything. So all it does is allow, in fact, it has allowed me to share my story, you know, because it is the elephant in the room. So when you go to sing, no matter what you do, you're tied to this machine. And so through that, I felt actually very grateful that I've been able to use that to tell my story, to hopefully help other people going through something similar. So it's been interesting. And then of course you get looks, you know, you get some crazy looks because people kind of can't put two and two together. So I don't know if it's changed. I'm not as aware as I could be. So I don't know if I have a full answer for you, but I think that all it's done is allowed me to share my story which has been a very good thing and probably scared off a couple people in the process, you know, like stand back, you know, because they don't know what's going on, of course, you know.
Wow. So I had a couple of questions. Let me ask you. Your vocal cords, they were paralyzed. How are you able to continue to sing, amazingly sing, with your vocal cords paralyzed?
With great difficulty is all I can say. As I say, I have a very unpredictable voice, and my vocal cords became paralyzed many, many years ago. Excuse me, I'd say probably about 15 years ago. Not vocal cords, my left vocal cord. So out of the blue, again, in a studio, started singing, and I'm like, what is happening? You know, and it was paralyzed for a year at first. We wanted to see if the nerves would come back. And they basically said, if your nerves don't come back, then we can do a surgery where we put an implant behind your voice box. So I waited the year and basically whispered for a year. Of course, I tried to sing with a whisper, and I did whatever I could do. And then a year later had the surgery because the nerves were completely shot. So it was permanent paralysis, which of course you don't want to hear when you're a singer. But they did say after the procedure, they said, you know, you won't be able to sing again. And I kind of figured, if you can talk, you can probably sing. There's got to be a way to sing if you can speak, you know? So I went on that mission again to build a muscle, as I say, to build a muscle where there is no muscle, you know? But it did make sense to me that it always makes sense to me that there has to be a way, you know, there's always sort of a way to be found. And so I started singing again, and I just built and built and built. And I now, as a result, like I was telling you earlier, as a result of the procedure, the double lung transplant, everything that's happened, actually, that's been the easier part. The fact that I'm on prednisone right now is the trickier part with regard to my voice. So, you know, because prednisone thins your cords and it's already paralyzed. So it's created a very unpredictable sound. So I'm just building and building and building right now. Started singing at the hospital. I'm determined to get my voice to where I needed to be able to deliver my message, which is what I say. But that's it. It's very unpredictable. So, you know?
Yeah. A lot of people say your determination is remarkable from SJ Day, but I'm sure a lot of people watching that deal with kidney disease or kidney failure or had a kidney transplant, or on prednisone, or steroids, so they could relate what you're saying. Let me ask you, Chloe, before this started, your illness, what type of songs were you singing? What type of lyrics? Because now I know you had mentioned now your lyrics, you know, your songs are all kind of centered around life and what you've been through. But what were your lyrics before all this happened? Was it like the typical pop lyrics? Can you talk about that?
It was. And, you know, it's funny because I realize now what it was then. I didn't know what it was then, but it was very much, you know, what are people going to want? I have to fulfill. It was record companies and they were going to want to hear a song about this and about this. And so I was writing for the sake of writing. And it was coming from the heart. And again, at the time I thought it was, but now I see that it perhaps was not as heartfelt. My life, and it wasn't about, you know, God. It wasn't about everything that I believe. It was just very much about the music industry type of song. So I enjoy all of that, of course, too, because at heart, I think a songwriter more so than a performer. So I love writing all kinds of music, but it definitely is not what I'm writing about now. And I tried recently, I went back and wrote a song about a relationship and sent it to a mix engineer. And he was like, oh my goodness. He said, this is such a great sign. You're writing a song about like love again. He's like, it's not just about survival. You know, he's like, this is great news. So of course my songs are coming from the heart now because they can't not. I think after going through something like this, it's just, you don't want to waste your time saying anything you don't mean, basically. But, you know, it was really nice to actually write a song about something other than just survival in life, because it does show you're kind of back into the world. You're back you know, you're a human being living on earth, and you're not just focused on your health and your life.
Well,
You
with
know,
that being said, let me ask you this. Being what you went through and being that you're starting to create other material other than health, will you still write about health to inspire or inspiration for people who deal with illness or chronic diseases? Will that still be a part of your uh, catalog?
I imagine for the rest of my life. I mean, you know, I'm a huge believer in God, you know, and the last song, I mean, I say it's my last song, but I've written songs since then, but You Save Me, you know, being the one that for me is like my heart song right now. It's so hard. I mean, like I said, I don't know. I never say that I know what I'm going to be doing because I have no idea what's going to happen in the future, but I'm so inspired, and it's like a thank you. You know, it's like I constantly feel the need to thank, and through the thank you, I hope I can inspire people, because that's what it is. It's like feeling that I was saved over and over again, and being here to share a message. You know, again, it's like a songwriter, but I feel as though I'm more of a messenger than a songwriter or a performer.
Gotcha.
It's like I just want to get it out. I want people to feel that there's hope when they're told there's no hope. I just want people to feel inspired to live, you know, and it's everything I wanted to feel for myself when I was told that it was over, basically. So I feel the need to get that message out, and because I'm a songwriter, that's how I do that. So I do imagine that is something that will probably live with me for the rest of my life.
Let me ask you, since you was diagnosed and been sick, did you lose many friends behind that?
You know, it's funny. It's not so much losing friends, but man, you really realize who your friends are.
And they went ghost?
It's not who you think. It's like the people who reach out to you, you know, who will forever be in my, like I say, my list of great people, you know. Some people that I barely would talk to, you know, who reached out to me during these difficult times. And I'm like, wow, you know, and then some people who you think would, and they just kind of disappear. So yes, is the answer. I think you do figure out who your friends are. And it's surprising sometimes, you know, but the community of people who have been, I mean, I can't stop thanking the community of people who've been thinking about me, praying for me. And I mean, I feel like we had the world praying for me this first time, but this last time in the hospital, I mean, I don't know if I needed every single prayer, basically, put it that way. On August 5th, this whole, you know, when the lungs came in, it's like how everything happened. I needed everything because it was right at the end. And I didn't even have the strength to do it myself, to kind of pray myself. Like I was just lying there, and I had lost so much of me that the fact that the world kicked, you know, the world, I say my friends, family, and people that I know, and, you know, everyone came around to bring me back, really, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about your transplant in a second, but I had one question. Again, I am so grateful and honored and privileged to be talking with you right now and interviewing, seriously. And with that being said, you have 31,000 followers on Instagram. You have 6,570 people you follow on Instagram. With that being said, can you tell me why you followed me out of thousands of people that you could have followed on Instagram? How did I come up on the radar? Because again, like I said, I'm very, as I told you in the message, when you first follow, and I saw that you follow me back before Christmas, how honored I was to meet you. But what stood out about me on Instagram for you to follow me?
Well, I'm just going to get right to the point, which is the fact that what stood out is the word nurse. And I have to bring this to nurses in general. So I'm generalizing you, Steve, but I mean, I literally, having gone through what I've gone through, have discovered yet again that nurses are absolute angels sent from the heavens above, truthfully. And I mean, there with me at the absolutely most difficult times in my life. And so I know I'm bringing this into a whole other thing, but the fact that it was like Steve, da da da, nurse, da da da. So then that was a huge motivator. Is the little word nurse by your name, if that answers the question. So
Oh,
yeah, I want to
absolutely.
personally thank you. As a nurse, or you being the nurse, I want to thank you because I'm serious. Like, it's just what you guys do. It's absolutely incredible. It's incredible to me. Angels on earth. That's what I believe.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, Wait a minute. Let me get to this next picture. Bear with me.
I'll cough.
Okay. So here's a picture with you and Dave Chappelle. Where was this at?
Oh, I love that. That was at a restaurant, I believe.
I'm rich. Now let me
That
stop.
was that was it. I know. I can't even remember what. It might have been Real Food Daily. It might have been. I think it was Real Food Daily.
Yeah, I was a big. He's from DC. I love the
I love
Chappelle
Dave
show.
Chappelle. I love Dave Chappelle. It was the perfect person for me. Nobody makes me laugh either, but he can make me laugh.
Right.
So he's great.
But this is who I wanted to point out.
Mm-hmm.
How special is this gentleman to you? We're talking about renowned
Oh, wow.
cardiothoracic surgeon at UCLA, Dr. Abbas Arda Harley. What does this gentleman mean to you?
Oh, my goodness. He means my life to me. I mean, this man fought for my life in every way possible, making sure that, I was high on that list, but he did everything to preserve my life. And he knew me so well, which was crazy. Without even really knowing me, he knew me, and he knew how to kind of get through to me. And I was so scared of a lung transplant at the time, and I can get further into all of that. But he really is everything, and literally saved my life. And I'm just so grateful to this man. It's very hard to know how to properly say thank you to somebody who's actually saved your life. But what an incredible person.
Yeah, I can't imagine having, 1 minute you singing and everything, and the next minute you need a double lung transplant. I can't imagine the anxiety that you may have been going through. And for this gentleman to reduce your anxiety, I'm sure it couldn't alleviate it, but you know how most doctors are. Some of them don't have bedside manners. And then you have some that do, or that treat you and make you feel really comfortable and like this is the guy.
And you know what I love so much too is that he wasn't, most surgeons want to go in there and do surgery. And he really wanted, I was connected to ECMO, to life support, for 21 days. And he wanted me to do what I wanted to do, which was I wanted to go home with pulmonary hypertension. I was like, I don't want a transplant. I can't have a transplant. I'd heard terrible stories. I'd heard, of course, there were great stories too, but I was so scared of the terrible stories I'd heard that I just thought there's no way I can do this.
So you accepted your fate, whatever happens, happens.
I did, but he didn't push, which was so wonderful. He really wanted me to disconnect from ECMO, and so he did. And I love the fact that he wasn't in there saying, you need to trans. He wanted me to be convinced. So, he allowed for me to kind of take my time to get there. Even though I didn't have time, time was ticking for sure because I was on my way out. Oh my goodness. My mother looked at me and she thought I had a day left basically by the end. And literally on that day, everybody looked at me like I had a day left. And that is the day lungs came in.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Take us back to that moment when you found out you were getting a transplant.
It's going to make me cry every time. I'm like in tears, but it's just, so it went, I was basically on my deathbed as much as could be. And one night, we hear, it's so funny because when I lose you on the screen, I lose you. I can't even talk to you.
I'm still here.
Okay. But basically it all happened on August 5th. So August 4th, the lungs came in, but I was lying in bed. I was on ECMO. I was dripping blood. I was in so much discomfort. I couldn't breathe. My heart was just beating out of my chest. I felt like, I can't even explain how terrible I felt. And there was no life left in me because I was so drained of everything from everything I'd been through. And we get a phone call, and it's the lung transplant team. And we're sort of all thinking, okay, that's weird, but maybe that's good. And this nurse comes running in, again, this nurse who was unbelievable. And then I get this phone call. So anyway, long story short, I get a call on my cell phone. And I'm told that lungs are available. And, now we have to see if they're going to be okay, because the lungs might not be viable. So, but that there were lungs, and, and I'm sort of thinking, like, I can't kind of understand reality because I was kind of half gone and half here. Anyway, we all burst into tears, and it just becomes this kind of miraculous moment. We go into prayer. My mother started praying. Like, we were all like, we didn't know how to handle the news, basically. And then we just had to make sure that these lungs would be viable, because a lot of the time you get very excited, of course, and you think you have lungs, and then they go in and they do, they bring you into surgery, they get you all ready to go, and then they have to let you go because, or not let you go, but it doesn't, essentially they can't give you the lungs because there's something wrong with the lungs. So in this case, the lungs were viable. However, I do have to say they were considered imperfect lungs when I got them. There were problems with the lungs. They decided to give them to me anyway. Dr. Arderholly did, because, the option was to die or to have these lungs. And I ended up with these imperfect lungs, and I call them my perfect lungs now because I worked them. They did everything they could to try to get the lungs to get stronger, and to there was these white things everywhere. So it was a lot of work to kind of heal the new lungs. But long story short, it was so unbelievably miraculous. I can't even tell you how the feeling is when you feel that you're going to die, and then there's all of a sudden hope from 1 second to the next, because you could be lying there for months and months and months, and I had been told that somebody had been there 9 months on ECMO, and that's so so unfathomable. This machine, which saves your life, so thank God for this machine, but it also kills you. And it's like the discomfort, Steve.
I can't imagine.
Ooh. So I can't even get into it. And I have all these scars all over my body. And itself was like, I don't even mean to diminish anything, but like easy in the sense that you're asleep. So they're doing all this while you're not even here. Whereas ECMO, you're awake, you're dealing with all this pain. And then after the procedure, it's really the recovery has been my legs, like of all things. My lungs, thank God, are healing, really, because it's been almost 6 months. But so they're still healing, but the difficulty has really been the remainder of ECMO and my legs coming back. But long story short, it's the most incredible miracle. And I just, I don't know, it's just such a miracle. I'm so happy to be alive. It's crazy.
Wow. It's another picture. How did this come about? Your ad with the Pulmonary Hypertension Foundation, I believe it is. There we go.
So I am, and believe forever will be, I don't even know what to call myself. It's not a spokesperson, but like I'm on a mission to bring awareness to pulmonary hypertension, and plan to be
Steve
forever.
Martin on your right shoulder.
Yes, exactly. So there's a Pulmonary Hypertension Association, and this was something that we had done with them several years ago. Excuse me. But that's part of my mission. So my mission has always been that, and then it's kind of, there's an added mission now of bringing awareness to the importance of organ donation, and kind of putting it all together. But yes, I'm permanently on that mission. It's crazy because at the hospital, I was sitting next to my mother, and all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, this is interesting. Like, I'm so used to having Steve Martin. I'm so used to pulmonary hypertension. I'm so used to that world. And I was like, I don't want to just like ditch that and like leave all that. And, like people who have PH they need to be cured. You know what I mean? So not that I have any ability I don't believe that I have any ability to necessarily do anything, but
you do. You do.
It stayed with me as a very, very strong mission. And it's like, that's my community. They've been my community. They've been so supportive of me. And it will remain my mission to do the best I can to bring awareness to PH. It's a very difficult disease to live with. and I know it very well. So, you know, they're very close to me.
Yeah, Chloe, that's very admirable and honor of you to do that because especially the work you do, and I'm sure once everything kind of lifts up a little bit, your career is going to rev back up in the high gear, traveling and stuff like that. But that being said, a lot of performers or people who VIPs or something like that who deal with a situation, they get it done, and they go back and do their career like
Mm.
nothing ever happened.
Mm.
But for you to stay actively involved, I mean, that's very special.
Well, it's interesting, and I can't imagine it not being a part of it. It's again, I think, it's sort of, in a way, I mean, I try to find the positive thing in all the negative things in a sense. So I feel like this nightmare, I call it a nightmare, between pulmonary hypertension and dying, being in a coma, a heart attack, a transplant, like there is a nightmare quality to all of this, but there's also an incredible blessing in all of this too, for myself personally. And then I hope I can get that message out, but which again is this message of hope. But it's changed, of course, my life in every way. So my life has a meaning that it never had. And I don't know if it would have ever had all of this not happened. So, I do have I have a kind of gratitude that I never had before. So there's a lot of good that has come from this bad. And
absolutely.
And I can't imagine going back. You can't, after all of this, you can't. Like, how do you forget this and go back to a life without this? For me, and everybody has a right to their own life, and not everybody's message is the same. You know what I mean? But for me, I feel so connected to my story and so connected to a message of hope. And it's, again, I bring it back to a selfish thing in the beginning too, because when I went home the first time from the hospital 7 years ago, I needed hope and I didn't have that. And I searched the internet. I looked for someone out there with PH that I could follow that could give me that feeling. And I found nothing. And it was just one bad story after the other. And I thought,
wow.
wait a second, what if there were a way to turn myself into that person? And so it then became my mission to turn myself into that person as best I could. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what happened. And it was the desire to help myself and then to ideally be able to transmit the message.
Can you talk a little bit? I mean, one special thing that came out of all this is the Chloe Temtchine Foundation. Can you speak a little bit about that? What it's about?
So the Chloe Temtchine Foundation, we started because I was on something called the Smile Tour, and we were visiting hospitals throughout the United States, and I was performing for kids, and basically was trying to fund all of this and couldn't necessarily fund all of this. So we started Chloe Temtchine Foundation so people could be a part of this with us, donate, help us. And it was really to bring smiles to these kids. And it was inspired by my 8-year-old friend, Humaira Bodania, who lost her battle to pulmonary hypertension quite recently. And that was a very, very difficult thing. You know how some people connect with you more than others. I was very, very connected and still am to not only Humaira, but to her family. I feel so connected to them. And she inspired this entire Smile Tour. And then with COVID, it turned into Super Brave Kids, which turned into Life Lessons from Super Kids, which is an interview series I do on YouTube with all of these incredible children who have been through so much, who have so many lessons to teach the world. And so the long story short, of course, I'm not answering the question, but the Chloe Temtchine Foundation helps me fund all of these projects, basically. So
that's awesome.
That's the gist, Yes.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. We're kind of coming down to the hour, but before let me just keep that up there. If anybody wants to donate to the Chloe Temtchine Foundation, here go to our website. You can go there and see all the great work that Chloe is doing with kids and the community and spreading awareness pertaining to pulmonary hypertension. So, Chloe, what do you want people watching this show right now who may not be dealing with pulmonary hypertension, but may be dealing with lupus or kidney disease or sickle cell or cancer or any other disease that's chronic that renders them not feeling well a lot of times, and just putting them in that depressive state. What can you share with them from your story?
Oh, so many things I feel. I mean, one big one is, and I always talk about this, and I also talk about how corny it sounds, but is this feeling of hope, and I think the worst feeling for me was this feeling of hopelessness that I had 7 years ago. I just thought, wow, like I'm being told I'm going to get worse. This is progressive. I'm going to die. I can't do anything anymore with my life. I have no energy. I feel terrible. I'm so short of breath. It was terrible. And I think that my hope is to instill the feeling of hope in others, which is exactly what I needed for myself. And I think that for me, it was to focus on everything I could do to help myself versus everything that I couldn't do and everything that was holding me back. I talk about my 5 key principles. I talk about, food. I ate the healthiest food I could possibly eat. I ate my mindset, I restructured my mind and I started to think about all of this, what do I want in life? What can I accomplish in life? And despite all of this, let's focus on what we want instead of what we don't want. And then it was exercise. Okay, I know I can't exercise, but I can walk downstairs maybe, even though it might take me half an hour to get there, I can still do it, or I could walk across one street. And so it was everything I could do. It was creative expression. For me, that's music. It's focusing on things that make you passionate, in life in general. And then family and friends, quality time with the people that I love and that matter to me most. And I think that all of those things combined gave me this strength to feel that I was slightly in control, even though we're never totally in control. It gave me the feeling that I was more in control of my health and I wasn't just sort of wasting away on my couch watching TV, because that you kind of want to do that when people are telling you you're done. You're like, whatever, I might as well eat ice cream and sit on my couch. You know what I mean? So,
right.
And believe me, it crossed my mind many times, but I think that again, it's the will to live thing. It's like, I really wanted to live. So I was like, all right, let me just focus on what I can do, make it happen, and do the best I could to make it happen, really. So I hope that can help. I hope that answers the question.
No, it wasn't a question. It was basically some words of inspiration, and it definitely did. And man, Chloe, again, I'm just indebted, grateful to you for again coming on Warriors Quest 2.0 and being candid, sharing your story. Man, I just don't. Oh man, thank you so much. Now, since then, your transplant, before you go, how everything going? Your numbers? I know you had a bronchoscopy the other day.
Exactly. That's so nice you're following all of this. So far, I have to say, so far so good. It's been now almost 6 months. It was August 5th, so I have no sense of time again. So it's been about 6 months, but I'm feeling so amazing. I'm so happy. My bronchoscopy went well. Thank you. And, it's like I say, every day is a new day. I have no idea what's happening tomorrow. But up until this moment now, I feel as though I'm the happiest person on earth. I'm so grateful for everything. I walk up the stairs and I'm like, what? And then like I've been running up and down stairs. I'm like, oh, I forgot something downstairs. That would have taken me like 2 hours to go grab something downstairs and walk back up again. So it's these little things, these simple life things, that are huge when you are not able to do them for so long. So I just have an incredible gratitude for being alive. And I just pray that all the goodness continues,
Wow. Awesome. Well, Chloe, look, I kept you long enough, but I hope you can return like 3-6 months from now and give us a recap of how you're doing. Plus, I'm going to be following you, now. So,
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And thank you for having me on here. And thank you for allowing me to share my story. That's what the whole thing is now. It's about getting the story out. So thank you very much.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. And please thank Dave Berry. Please thank Dave for setting this up. Really appreciate it, Dave, for the quick response. To you, Chloe, for the quick response and the follow, and hopefully the beginning of a relationship. And I just pray and keep you in thoughts and prayers that you live a long and healthy life and have a very, very successful career beyond your wildest dreams.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And for all of the things that you do, which you told me all about when we started this before. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I wish you all the luck in the world with it. And long and happy, healthy life to you. And be safe during these very strange times.
Oh, well, you stay safe too, because I know California is a hotbed right now. So I know you have to really be cautious in what you do and where you go. So definitely stay safe yourself. And I'll be in touch. And again, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on Warriors Quest 2.0. And again, all the success for you.
Thank you, Steve. Same to you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Now we start the real interview, right?
Yeah.
Mwah.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. Guys, this has been an awesome show. I want to thank you for coming on and watching Chloe's story. We got Warriors Quest coming up at 8:30. But before I go, for those who just watching, let's end this show with some music from Chloe. I'm sorry, this is from the Doctors.
Why tell you I love you tomorrow if I love you today? Don't let your life pass you by. Don't wait for someday to start. Live your life. Love like you'll never be
What a beautiful voice.
Don't let your life pass you by. Don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. No. Don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. Don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. No, don't let it pass you by. Don't let it pass you by, no. Don't let it pass you by. Don't let it pass you by, no. Don't let your life pass you by.
I can honestly say that song just gave me chills. And you all enjoyed that. I know you did. You can hear more of Chloe's music. Go to our website.
Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure to have award-winning singer-songwriter and double transplant recipient Chloe Temtchine right here on Warriors Quest 2.0 on the Urban Health Outreach Media. Thank you. God bless you, and good night. Thank you for watching. Peace.